Yes, sir, I did. I'm sorry. The judge is out there. I probably get served one.
Just wait, and I'm gonna say.
Good evening. We'll call this meeting to order. Would commissioners please turn on your microphones? And Mr. O'Rourke, would you give us the pledge today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
O'Rourke.
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Present.
Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Here. Commissioner Allgaier.
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. We have one set of board minutes that we could approve if we have a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Support. October 1, 2024.
Yes, sir.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 6-0. Okay, we have an agenda. We have one late addition that's not on the list. It would be action item H. And it's a resolution with Grand Traverse County on the safety issue on Long Lake and Uguay Road. Cedar Run. Cedar Run, yes, Cedar Run, thank you.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
So it's Gray Road in Cedar Run or?
Yes, you're right.
Yes, very serious.
Okay.
Just a quick, on your packet there, some of these late additions that you knew were coming, I have put them in order as we're going through the agenda tonight, so it's easy for you to find.
We put all mine back in order.
Sure.
We got them all.
I've got all mine out of order, so what else?
Okay, we have our administrator update, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, I got three quick ones. One, by Thursday afternoon, we will have resubmitted our swap application to Leelanau Township. I want to give thanks to Lauren for the work she's doing to make sure everything gets put together, but also to the rest of AE for the analysis that they undertook in getting and helping us get the correct information to address the planner's concerns. So hopefully we'll get that more. Second, in your handouts there tonight, you have a quarterly report from the treasurer with their quarter investment report. You wanted to make sure you have it. And by me saying all this, I know, Michelle, you have it. You'll make sure it's a part that it has been delivered. If you got questions, don't call me. You'll be in trouble. You will be too. And last but not least, Mr. Jennings said both I and Chairman Chair Russell, an update as it relates to the search that the advertisement for Leelanau County Administrator has been posted and it's out there. So anybody that's got friends and neighbors who may want to apply, we wish that you would get the information to them. Also related to that, the attorney, our attorney that would review the administrator job description has sent this stuff back. Nothing of substance changed. He just put it in better order than I did, separated up and changed some of the requirements, such as, hey, you're gonna have to sit a long time in front of a computer once in a while. Well, I didn't put that in there, but I don't sit a long time in front of a computer, so I think it's important. I get up and walk around too much, so there you go. Okay, but nothing substance. So
Questions for the administrator? Okay, next on our agenda, we have the 86th District Court Annual Report, and Gwen Taylor and Judge Cooney are here. Thank you, Judge, for coming. And Gwen? And in your board package, you do have the annual report.
Yeah, we don't want to take up too much of your time since we supplied the report in advance, but we did want to hit a few of the highlights. And this is really the first, this is our 2023 year in review. And so COVID changed a lot. And I thought I would just mention that nowadays we live stream just about every court hearing, so the public can tune in and watch our court hearings, see what goes on. We also do almost all of our civil cases now by live stream Zoom meetings. And I think that's been very helpful and well received by the attorneys and the parties, because a lot of times I'll see someone, it's obvious they're in their office and they shut the door so they can be in their hearing and they don't have to leave work or whatever is up. All of our dockets, our case information is available on our website. So there's been a lot of transparency with the court, and we keep moving forward with those things. I thought I'd also mention we had a huge project in 2023 called Clean Slate. It's an act passed by the legislature, wiped out thousands of criminal convictions, set aside over 7 years old, which according to our Chief Justice Clement stated, helping those individuals go to school, get jobs, and buy houses by wiping out those convictions. 2023 was also the year that we asked to have 2 probation officers we cut reinstated, and you did that, and we're very appreciative for it. We're now at caseloads that I think are much more manageable, around 100 to 125 per probation officer, which allows for much better supervision of our probationers. As far as employee turnover goes, that has stabilized quite a bit, of course, because of the tightening labor market and slightly higher wages that the court is able to pay now. And again, we appreciate the board for going along with those things. As far as caseloads go, there are numerous reports in our annual report. About the only thing interesting there is that felony filings have gone up substantially in all 3 counties. Misdemeanor filings went up somewhat, but not as much. I'm not sure if there's a trend here, but I think it's way too soon to know that. So I'm going to turn it over to our administrator, Gwen. She's going to talk to you about staffing and budget issues.
So just to piggyback some information that the judge had made note of is the staffing levels for probation department. I've noticed a change with our probation officers. I feel like there's a visible sigh of relief of that weight lifted off their shoulders for manageable caseloads. So that is very helpful to them. As a court, we did have 8 new hires in 2023, and that is, we weren't fully staffed starting in 2023. Of those 8 new hires, 3 stayed less than a year. And also we had 3 resignations in 2023. With that staffing turnover, we also had some leadership changes. Our court administrator, Dawn Wagner, retired in May of 2023. Magistrate Casties went down to part-time magistrate status in April of 2023. And I took over as court administrator in May 2023 as well. So relatively new in my position. So continuing to learn each and every day. With that staffing plan, also we were able to, in late 2022, made some staffing changes with the retirement, partial retirement of Magistrate Cassie. So we were able to create another full-time clerk. So we have 2 full-time clerks and a part-time magistrate position, and that has greatly increased our efficiencies and workload management within the district court here in Leelanau. So we've noticed some relief in that as well, and appreciate your support during that time. Regarding budget, the court started to transition to the state-supported JIS DCS caseload management system. And that system is provided at no cost to the courts. So we were able to begin that process in September of 2023. We had regular meetings with a JIS implementation team. Took quite some time, and we went live with that project in August of this year. So still fairly new in that program, but that is something that, again, the state is funding that caseload management system. So we are no longer having to pay for our JMS caseload management system. And then as far as budget, revenue, and expenditures, I will make note that the Leelanau County revenues did decrease by about 94,000. We saw a dramatic decrease with our revenues in 2021, and part of that is again due to legislation that's passed and the jail task force reform, assessing the defendants and parties' ability to pay on what can be assessed for court fines and costs. So that was that had a big impact in those revenues and what we could assess for fines and costs. As far as expenditures, we are staying pretty consistent with that. I think what I meant to say was the difference in our expenditures to revenue is 94,000. So not what the difference was between 2022 and 2023.
How do you make up for that then? If the revenue is not there, how do you pay the bills?
The courts are not a revenue building resource. So when we are assessing those costs when our probation agents are doing the assessments of defendants' ability to pay and recommending what should be ordered for fines and costs. That's something that the probation officers work to assess the defendant's ability to pay. And so following the legislation on what the judges can order for those fines and costs are a big part of that.
So the court is one of the few departments or offices within the county that actually brings in money. And of course, we're not the ones that generate all that money. It's law enforcement, the prosecutor's office, whether they're charging cases or not. And of course, none of us are looking to raise revenues necessarily. And actually, the courts have been criticized because of the costs that we impose, and the state for years has been trying to figure out what to do about the Supreme Court decision that said that we can't fund our operations off court costs. And they keep punting the ball and moving it further down the line. But eventually we're going to have to deal with that. But our revenues are kept completely separate from our budget. So we request a budget. If we fall short on revenues, that's a separate line item for the counties to deal with. So does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
So one thing I want to bring up, and this is the last thing I want to discuss. You may have heard some rumblings about the court and Antrim County in particular, possibly wanting to leave the 86th District Court. So a little history there. It's always been Grand Traverse and Leelanau County since 1965, when the Court of Appeals was established in Michigan. And Antrim County was added sometime, I think around 98 or 99, somewhere around that time frame. And when they added Antrim County, they added a third district court judge. Well, at some point, the state court administrator's office decided we didn't really need 2.8 judges, which is what their numbers showed at the time. We only needed 2, and they cut one of those judges, but we still had Antrim County. So Antrim County, for whatever reasons, and I don't want to get into too much of that, but has decided that they would like to go their own way. And frankly, we believe, Judge Sepka and I, and the other judges believe that this is probably in the best interests of all 3 counties. I will say that my goal is to keep Leelanau and Grand Traverse together administratively. What we've talked about is the possibility of a probate/district court judge in Antrim and in Leelanau County, and 2 judges in Grand Traverse County. There's no additional expense to the counties as far as judicial resources, but it seems to make a better, it's a better use of judicial resources for the state. So administratively, we'd like to keep things the way they've been since 1965, and that's Grand Traverse and Leelanau County. I will say that we've run some budget numbers. They're very, it's very much a rough draft, but we think it's going to be more expensive for all 3 counties. We think it saves money by combining the administration part of that. I don't know whether Antrim County will go along with that. I don't think that's where they want to end up. So I wanted to give you all a heads up about that, because you probably have heard some rumblings about it. There are serious discussions going on at this time. And this is actually the first time I publicly discussed this since the discussions became more serious anyway. So with that, we'll take any questions that you might have.
So how would that affect us financially?
Well, the way that it would affect us is we would initially have to absorb any Antrim County employees, because they're not truly Antrim County employees, they're Grand Traverse County employees, and we have 5 people up there. We would definitely cut a probation officer because that would become a fully funded Antrim County job at that point. The other employees we're hoping to absorb through attrition, and the way things have been going, we have enough turnover. I don't think that would be a problem. I would be advocating for at least a 1-year implementation period so that we have that time to resolve any employee issues through attrition. And so the counties all have a chance to look at their budgets, figure out where we're going to be, and decide whether this all makes sense. The legislature has to act in order to change the jurisdictions of the judges. And so this is all very premature. But I wouldn't be telling you about it if I didn't think there was a definite possibility that it could happen. There are some benefits. You'd have a judge in Leelanau County 5 days a week rather than us traveling and not being here every day. So I see some definite benefits. You'd also have a judge who's elected only in Leelanau County. They would be a Leelanau County resident. Of course, we've had Leelanau County residents as judges in Antrim and Grand Traverse County before. Judge McCormick comes to mind for, about 25, 30 years there. But going forward, the judge who sits in those counties for the district court would be a resident of that county. So there are some definite benefits to the concept, and those may weigh out whatever the additional cost might be. But we want to make sure that all of the counties are aware of what those expenses would be before we come up with an administrative plan. And you should know that if the legislature acts to change things, it would still be up to the three counties to decide how to proceed administratively. So, so that'd be a discussion between the three county boards.
Between the boards.
Yes,
Thank you.
or
So
amongst the boards.
the 5 employees that are Grand Traverse County employees, is it possible that any of them would stay in Antrim?
Well, see, that's what we don't know. You know, they are Grand Traverse County employees. It's possible that Antrim decides to keep all of them. They have a bit different pay structure than Grand Traverse County has, so that might affect the way they view it. But that is a definite possibility.
Well, if they were faced with perhaps layoffs, perhaps it might not be such a bad deal for them, even if it's a little less paid, at least they would be employed and familiar with all the cases as well.
Yes, and at least 3 of the employees live in Antrim. You know, they live very close to the courthouse. So.
Any other questions for the judge?
Just timing, what are we looking at? Is this happening next year or?
Well, we're having a meeting with some of the folks involved next week. And the hope is to get a letter to our legislators in Lansing before the end of the month, actually, to advise them that we're ready to go forward with a plan. And obviously, we would want all 3 boards to be agreeable to that as well. So we'll be back in front of you at some point this fall, asking you to support whatever the proposal is that we have going forward. Because I really don't think the legislature is going to act, especially in lame duck, unless they know that all of the judges, all of the boards support going forward with this plan.
One more final question. Is there really enough business up here for a judge to be up here 5 days? We haven't had a judge up here for 5 days, have we?
Well, you know, the probate judge is
Family court, right?
a full-time judge. So, you know, they're available 5 days a week.
Thank you very much, Judge Gail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your assistance.
Next on our agenda is Mr. DeForest with his Energy Futures Task Force annual report. And the report is on page 30 of our board. Hi, Joe.
Good day. Nice to see you all again. Oh, great. And I'll refer you to the screen. We're going to use a slide deck for most of this. My name is Joe DeForest. I'm the current chair of the County Energy Futures Task Force. Slide, please. Lauren, are you there? Thank you. You created us in this room in September of 2023. And at that time, you asked us to return in 1 year and give you a report on our activities and achievements and so forth. And that's why I'm here this evening. Slide, please. As a matter, just for context to assist the discussion, a quick review. Our mission that you approved at that time was to identify opportunities and facilitate implementation of energy efficiency and renewable energy in Leelanau County. And we also stipulated 5 goals: education, role modeling, policy, project development with fundraising, and then such as today, reports and recommendations. Slide, please. You all have the entire report, which runs 6 pages. And of course, I'm not going to insist on reading all of that to you. I'm sure you've read as much as you cared to before we arrive. But I would like to highlight just a couple things. Under the category of accomplishments, we listed 5 major accomplishments for the year. We published 4 public education articles. These were put out in the Senior Services newsletter, and each had a circulation of over 6,000. We presented 2 public education speaker programs, well attended, submitted a grant application for a $1.5 million solar project, producing an estimated savings of over $35,000 annually and $1 million over the following 30 years of the project. We submitted a second grant application, a much smaller one, $19,080. And this was to fund a survey and study of Leelanau County energy use, energy policy, and citizen behaviors and attitudes on the subject. And finally, we assisted our tribal representative on the task force with the preparation for a grant for EV charging infrastructure on Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indian properties. Slide, please. What I'd like to do, again, I don't want to force you to go through page by page of the report itself, but I'd like to take you through a series of slides just for a couple of minutes here that I hope will underline why the topic of energy efficiency in general and why the work of the task force is pertinent today and we believe pertinent for our future. Slide, please. I'm going to make a quick note. All the remaining slides on your paper packets have references and citations. I've long emphasized that when we make statements about these kinds of topics, you should be careful to reference quality sources, respectable sources, and these are noted in all of the facts that I'm going to share with you as we go forward. 3.5 million is the approximate number of clean energy workers in the United States today. That's an increase of 200% over 2023. Slide, please. Renewable sources, prominently wind and solar, today account for 30% of global energy generation on the planet. And in fact, solar energy is the fastest growing electricity source on the planet. Slide, please. Many of us are visual learners, and these next 2 slides are just going to underline those facts that I just stated. These are bar graphs, 10-year bar graphs from 2014 to 23. This bar graph visually shows you the growth of solar capacity in the United States. If the bars don't speak strongly enough, the numerical equivalent of this growth is 688% in 10 years. Slide, please. The equivalent slide for wind is up now. As you can see, the installed capacity of wind has grown as well. The numerical equivalent of this is 130% in the last decade. Slide, please. This is a little bit more complicated slide, and all the numbers and so forth aren't as important for its central purpose here. I would refer you to the diagonal light green line that starts in the lower left of the slide and rises to the upper right. That represents the aggregate generation of wind and solar energy from 1919 up until the beginning of 2025, the aggregate generation. The important thing that's happening in this slide here is it crosses 3 other lines. Today, the aggregate generation of clean energy is greater than hydro, is greater than natural gas, is greater than coal, and is greater than nuclear. Thank you. Slide, please. I personally and the task force occasionally have been accused of at least being not friendly to nuclear energy. I added this slide to make a point. Very often, there's a simplistic view that the tree huggers and the environmentalists are what's holding nuclear energy back. That's simply not the fact. This slide, horizontal bar graphs, represents the cost of producing energy by categories. So the categories in this slide are nuclear, coal, offshore wind, geothermal, combined gas cycle, solar PV, and wind. And of course, the longer the bar, the more expensive that category of energy is. Nuclear energy today in the United States is the most expensive form of energy there is to produce. An added fact, in the last 30 years, there's only been one nuclear energy project building out new nuclear in the United States. That was in Georgia. It's called the Vogtle Project. There's only been one because it's so tough to do. This project took twice as long to complete as predicted. It was predicted to be completed in 7 years. It took 14. It was $20 billion over budget. $20 over budget. It's estimated that the utility ratepayers for, I don't recall exactly what utility that is, will see a 10% rise in their bills for decades into the foreseeable future to cover the expenses of this project. At the bottom of the graph, you will note that the smallest bars are those for onshore wind and utility scale solar. It is simply true that in the United States today, and in fact, in the world today, wind is first and solar is a close second at being the cheapest forms of building out new energy, period. A simple example is that most of us are either Cherryland or consumers, supply our electricity. We pay about 12 cents a kilowatt hour for that electricity today. New wind and solar are being built out so that the cost of the energy produced is 2 cents a kilowatt hour or less. Slide, please. I include this slide as well because on multiple occasions by multiple people, facts have been shared which are inaccurate and misleading about the environmental implications of solar and wind, concerns about decommissioning, taking the projects apart at the end of their life cycles, and so forth. This is a chart. Again, I'm a visual learner, and I think many of us are. On the far right, you can see a scale of from the year 2016 forward to the year 2050. And the tiniest boxes on the far right of that graph show you graphically the amount of waste that comes from solar photovoltaic panels. And again, it runs out to 2050, so it's predicting that pretty impressive growth that you saw in the earlier graphs. Next to that, you see, in comparison, a cube suggesting the amount of waste produced by oil and sludge, another one by electronic waste, that's our televisions, our radios, our cell phones, our computers. The next category is coal ash. It's the primary material produced by the burning of coal for electricity. And finally, on the left, the largest set of blocks is simply our own very common municipal waste. I include this slide because it is fair and appropriate for everybody to ask about environmental concerns. We don't from that. We don't shirk that. You should ask about decommissioning of projects. You should ask about emissions and so forth. But when you do, understand the proportions of the problem. The amount of waste produced by our new renewable technologies is infinitesimal compared to the waste streams that we see and we deal with today. So we applaud anybody that comes to this movement of concern for our planet, whether you were here decades ago or whether you just arrived recently. But do keep things in proportion. I'll end with a final fact. There's been some terrible mythology shared about solar panels in particular. 98% of a solar panel is aluminum and glass. 98%. Until recently, there were so few that there really wasn't much interest, and there was no profitability in attempting to take them apart and recycle them. But now they've been around long enough that we are beginning to develop or retire, I should say, panels in numbers that make it worthwhile for them to be recycled and the elements reused again and so forth, because it's economically feasible to do so. That's just capitalism in America. There's a profit in it now. Slide, please. So I returned quickly. The mission of this task force for the past year, there have been 14 individuals contributing, 50 or more hours in our formal meetings, hundreds of hours in informal meetings, and giving their own personal time to all of our various activities to identify opportunities, facilitate implementation of energy efficiency and renewable energy in Leelanau. Slide, please. I conclude the report with just a single recommendation from the task force unanimously. That is to authorize the Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force to continue our work for an additional 3 years. Slide, please. Leaving you, I hope, with an inspirational thought. The burning of fossil fuels today to make electricity and power, two categories, are transportation needs and to make electricity, accounts for 87% of our carbon emissions into the atmosphere. Two categories, clean energy, or excuse me, electricity and transportation. Those are among the activities and focuses of this task force. Final slide. I say thank you very much. I ask your support for the good work that this group has done, and your permission to continue that good work. They're all volunteers. They're giving generously of their time to make this community a better place. Thank you.
Joe, thank you very much. And before we open up to any questions, we will be taking up the issue of members and continuing the task force at our November meeting, along with all the other committees.
Very well.
So you would be welcome to come back and give us public comment at that time. And thank you very much for the hard work. Any questions or comments for Joe? Then I think we can conclude by saying thank you to you, Joe, and to the committee for the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
We are now down at our first public comment opportunity. You have 3 minutes to speak on any item on the agenda. We'll start with Ms. Pepper.
Good evening, Commissioners. Is the Energy Task Force on the agenda?
report.
Yeah, so I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Well, I too am concerned about the economy. So I brought with you my current bill for electricity. It's $13.68. We have 32 solar panels on the west side of our house, not the best side for solar. We've had them for 6 years. My husband estimates that we've saved 75% of our electric bill. So it does work here in Leelanau County. The other thing is, I think so amazing about it, it's cheaper, better, faster, and the market will decide this. We won't. But I got an ad today from Consumer Powers that suggests if you drive a electric vehicle, you pay $1.30 per gallon. If you drive a regular vehicle, you pay $3.30. I'm still at the $3.30, but I see that the EV is going to save me a lot of money, and anybody who can drive one as well. Easy and affordable home charging from Consumer Powers. The market is already showing us how to go. I hope we follow it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell?
Mr. Chairman, we have with us Commander Greg Mikowski from the VFW. We want to speak on the same subject. Can we combine our time at 3 minutes and both approach?
You each have 3 minutes.
No, we're not going to take any more time. I know, I don't blame you. I just didn't want us both to walk up here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Between them, they're gonna use 1 3 minute.
Less than that, honestly. Our goal is to get out.
Well,
The reason that I came is I'd like to thank Richard for allowing us today to get our application in. We were kind of running out of time. And like to ask the board to consider our application.
This is for a 2% grant. Maybe you guys know, you've heard the VFW Hall. By the way, I'm not a VFW member, and it's a little late for me to qualify. So I don't think you have to worry about that. But the VFW needs a lot of work. It's a community center, as you know, been built by GIs when they came back from World War II. And to keep it important, to keep it prominent, and to keep it useful, we need really hundreds of thousands of dollars. We'd like to start on the handicap side with a handicap bathroom. Got in this application rather rough, but we feel confident of the estimates. And if you would just allow us the courtesy of moving on to the next stage, we appreciate it. Anything else? Greg?
thank you very
No.
much.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions?
What was our time, by the way? I just want to know. If we
1 minute.
1 minute.
Right up an hour less. About a minute and a half.
Oh, you exaggerate, come on.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Jean Jenkins. I live in Glen Arbor County, and I'm here tonight to urge all of the Board of Commissioners to continue support for the Energy Task Force. My dad, I grew up on a farm in southern Wisconsin, and my dad was a very conservative guy who also embraced innovation. He was a big proponent of self-reliance and wanted to be a steward for the environment. And one of his great life dreams was to be able to put up solar panels and have a wind turbine. He wanted to milk the sky and turn it into power for our family farm. Unfortunately, he passed away before his dream would become possible. But I'm hoping, and well, actually my husband and I are carrying on that dream for him. About 5 years ago, we put up solar panels, like the earlier speakers said, they had put up solar panels, and a vast majority of our electricity for these last 5 years has been supplied by those solar panels. Like many of you, I was originally skeptical that in this region with the short winter days and lots of clouds that it wouldn't make sense. But let me tell you, it does make sense. We estimate that we only pay electricity. We get that same $13 a month bill from consumers for most of the year. There's only about 2.5 months maybe where we pay for electricity. We also have an electric car now, and I cannot tell you how exciting or how it warms my heart on a sunny day to know that that sun is going into our panels and powering our car. It's just this wonderful feeling of independence, self-reliance. My dad was a rugged individualist, and he really wanted that sense of independence and being able to pull from what was right there, not halfway across the world, but pull from what was right there, Mother Nature was supplying to provide electricity. So I really urge you to continue to support this task force and look for ways that we here in Leelanau County can move forward. Solar energy makes sense. It's a lot of fun. I think our solar panels are beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, Ms. Bailey, and then Mr. White.
Okay. Lois Bailey, Village of Suttons Bay. I'm speaking on the Energy Task Force issue. As I've said many times, we need to think globally and act locally. We have plenty of evidence of global climate change coming our way, oceans warming, glaciers melting, sea levels rising, more violent storms and more frequent storms. You can hardly stand to watch the weather reports these days. We'll soon be seen as a climate refuge in our area here. Human-caused increases in greenhouse gases accelerate climate change. Burning fossil fuels are a great deal of the problem. So we need to consider sustainability in our decisions, continue the Energy Task Force as the group focused exclusively on efficiency and conversion away from fossil fuels, and let them write the grants and apply for funds that are out there for you guys, adopt the First Nations principles and looking 7 generations to the futures. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White?
Good evening, members of the Board of Commissioners, invited guests, and fellow citizens. My name is Jim White, and I'm running for County Commissioner for District 4. And I'm here tonight to address some misinformed and inflammatory remarks that have been directed at me, members of this board, and by extension, anyone who raises legitimate concerns about the proposed solar panel project for the Leelanau County Government Center. Henceforth, I'll refer to as the solar project. To be clear, I support clean energy. Solar energy as a part of that portfolio has tremendous potential when implemented correctly. However, like any energy source, solar has limitations, and each project must be evaluated on its specific merits, its cost, benefits, and long-term viability. It is on these grounds that I oppose this solar project as currently planned. It is unnecessary, unreliable, inefficient, and above all, an enormous financial burn on the taxpayers of this county. Despite Mr. DeFore's theatrics, the solar project will not deliver the promises he has made. It will not save money. It will not come without cost through so-called free money, and it will not be without environmental waste once these solar panels reach the end of their lifespan. What it will be, unfortunately, is an eyesore, a financial drain, and a misuse of public funds. Mr. DeFore himself admits that he has no experience in energy or climate science. On that point, I agree with him. His lack of expertise is glaring. So it begs the question, how did someone without credentials in this field become the chairman of the Energy Futures Task Force? Perhaps it's due to his association with the Northport Wind Turbine Project located in my district. Though I cannot speak to his level of involvement, all that remains of that venture is a large concrete pillar. It reminds me of an old country song I'm sure many of you are familiar with, though with a slight twist. They got the turbine and we got the shaft. Mr. DeFore's organization promised the same things with the wind turbine: cost savings, free construction, free energy for decades, and no waste. We've all seen how that turned out. Now we're faced with the prospect of another costly failure if we allow this solar project to proceed. As the saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What makes the situation even more troubling is Mr. DeFore stands to personally gain from this project. If approved, there's a strong likelihood he will be financially compensated, an obvious conflict of interest and a clear violation of county policy. And yet, in a stunning display of hypocrisy, he accuses a sitting board member of a conflict of interest. If Mr. DeFore truly believes in ethical standards that he preaches, He should start by stepping down from his position as chairman of the Energy Futures Task Force. I urge you, members of the board, not to be swayed by Mr. DeFore's empty promises. Approving this ill-conceived solar project will bring long-lasting regret with little to no benefit. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Keith Badoon, Leelanau Township. I want to address the comparison between a nuclear power plant and solar panels that are going to power this building. Nuclear power plant produces electricity to do probably most of the state, the Palisades. So when you try to compare a nuclear power plant to solar panels just for this building, there is no comparison. Now, if the solar panels you're putting around this building will power the entire county, then I could be more persuaded. But you cannot compare the Palisades nuclear plant equal to solar panels to power just this building. You can't do that. That's just not comparable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you very, yes, Mr. Bunny? Or how did they pronounce your name the other night?
Bunnick. But I go by Bunnick, Bunnick, and Bonnick. I'm Will Bunnick from Suttons Bay, and I'd just like to say that I see on there about the dam, and I'm really interested that we try to use local people to support and put in the walkway. I really trust Eastland Construction. I think they do a good job, and they will be here to repair it if there is something that goes wrong. So I did see on there that it was a different company from, I think they're downstate, that was recommended, and I would really would prefer that we use local labor, and I hope you'll consider that.
Thank you. Thanks, Will. Any other public comment? Well, thank you very much for coming, and we will have another public comment at the end of the meeting. And at that time, you may speak to us about anything that you think we ought to hear. We'll now move down to our consent agenda. Oh, yeah, we have commissioner comments. See, I was trying to rush it along. Any commissioner comments? Oh, I didn't miss any. We are at the consent agenda, and the clerk has reminded me that I am supposed to read this each meeting. So the purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such request will be automatically respected and will not need a second.
Again, I will remind everybody, one yes vote means you just did 6 yes votes tonight.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion approved 6-0. We are now down to our first action item agenda, and that is planning termination of West Shore Brownfield plant.
Okay. Prior to this meeting at 6:30, the required public hearing was included for both the public as well as the property owner was conducted. We had no comments that were received, so that portion of the process to terminate this particular plan has now been completed. We have before you a resolution that in the motion to do so, that would officially close this particular brownfield plan. It's been recommended by the Brownfield Authority that you do so. I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner O'Gara.
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve resolution number 2024 XXX, resolution to terminate the brownfield plan for West Bay West Shore Hotel redevelopment, since the project described in the West Bay / West Shore Hotel redevelopment brownfield plan failed to occur within 2 years of the date of the resolution adopting the plan, March 20th, 2007, or within 2 years of the date of the resolution adopting the plan amendment, June 20th, 2017, and there are no outgoing obligations.
Or any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroad,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner or Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. We are now down to the T-Mobile bill of sale.
Okay, we have last week talked about this particular facility that the county happens to been given because a prior vendor on our central tower site, Sprint, decided that they were no longer wanting to be on the tower. And they left the building to us, so we received the building at $0. Our emergency management team reviewed this. T-Mobile is working to locate on the tower. They are willing to take the current building and to take it off our hands, make all the repairs that are necessary to repair it for $1. So we felt like it was in the best interest of the county to let them have it for $1. They've got to take care of it, and that belongs to them. But the more important part of it is they will be now located on the tower, which will become a revenue stream for the county. I guess that's about as well as I can explain it.
Perfect. I love it. I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the bill of sale between Leelanau County and T-Mobile for the equipment shelter at Central Tower site and allow the board chairman to sign the agreement pending approval from legal counsel.
Support.
Discussion. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 6-0. Thank you. We are now down to the Leland Dam walkway replacement.
Well, I've got a lot of stuff on this part. Dang, how did I do that? 8 items. All right, first one. The Leland Dam walkway project. In your packet, you have a memo that was given to the Leland Dam Authority that outlined the bids that had been received. I'm going to go to the spreadsheet that's in there. Patrick identified that there were 2 bidders that he could, either one of them that you could go with. That would have been Eastland Construction as well as Fisher Contracting. The main product of all of this is that we are recommending, and so is the board, instead of going with treated lumber, that we go with a product that would be much longer lasting than treated lumber. It is estimated that that kind of a lumber that could probably last maybe for 10 to 15 years. What we're hoping is, or what we have learned, is that using the eBay and or the what was the other one called, the thermal modified ash, would meet an objective that the bridge and the product could last 30+ years. Now, I like to say and guarantee you that it will last 30+ years, but I can assure you I won't be around to know that. If I am, my mind probably won't be remembering what I did at this date anyway. I can tell you that the Leland Dam Authority wrestled with this recommendation to you. I think the only defining difference that they saw between the 2 bidders, and they were both qualified, so there's not one that's better or not better, is that the Fisher Contracting would use 100% of thermally modified ash. And whereas the Eastland contractor would be using, the posts would be made of epay wood. That's the only major difference. And one thing they looked at was trying to look at sustainability, the use of the lumber, as we learned, that eBay product comes out of South America. And from what we understand, it is not I don't know if it's the right term, sustainable. In other words, it doesn't grow back very quickly if they're even replanting again there. Whereas the ash up here in North America, which I think is coming out of Canada, is repopulated, is planted and there is growth that's continuing to keep that product in line. The difference between the two, I will not argue, is one is $124,700, the other one's $111,000. So they selected the one that would be 100% ash, throwing out modified ash. They also recognize the other one will work too. It depends on how we want it to go. So they went with the higher recommendation. But I think it's pretty clear that they wrestled with. They can go with either one you want to go with. Our point is, we would like to award this, get this awarded. It's going to take some time to get either product into the system. We'll make the order immediately. But we'd like to get this work done during the off season so that when spring comes, the work is complete. They may have to do some winter work, but at least to get it started.
Commissioner Ross?
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the bid presented by Fisher Contracting as recommended by the Dam Authority for the Dam Walkway Railing Project in an amount not to exceed $124,736.77. Funds to be transferred from the general fund contingency to fund 8000 and authorize the chairman to sign the contract. 05. Support.
Commissioner Rexroth?
I cannot support this motion at this time. For the same reason spoken earlier. I mean, Eastland being a local contractor, most of the people live here, pay taxes here. It seems like there's a very minor difference between these bid product selections, with apologies to the Leelanau Dam Board. I wasn't at the meeting, so the full information, but I think you'd have to have a more compelling reason in my mind than posting, if you would, to make that decision and to not use people who live locally, pay our taxes in this county. So I will not support that.
Do we know that Eastland couldn't switch the post product?
We don't know that.
We don't know that, but this is how their bid came in. And to start asking questions like that and ask them to modify their bid, to answer that question, we can ask it afterwards, and there may be a difference in cost. But you can't do that once you open the bids. You're kind of stuck with the bid that you have. You gotta work with what you have in front of you.
If there's not more bid documents, what I'm looking at, I see no exceptions in their bid. And so that they either met the specifications or they didn't. When I submit a bid, if I'm not meeting the specifications, I need a note on my bid form. I am substituting something different. So you actually have the right to hold them to using cash without an exception in that bid form.
All I know is the analysis that our consultant used to look at that. If this is what you want to go with, we'll ask the question, but I can't answer your question right now. I'm just going by what I have in front of me. So
Would we entertain moving this forward? Do we get more information? Because I mean, I'm just one. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak up, but I can't
I
support
don't
this.
know. All I can do is ask if this is correct, that they are not going to use, if they're going to mix this up. And I think they did that. I think Patrick did that,
But to what extent? I mean, is it?
what I'm saying, the extent is they're going to use eBay for the post. That's what I have in the notes from Patrick.
Commissioner Hogan?
It's always a good idea to use someone local if you can. I can't imagine that he couldn't use ash instead of ePay. But what's the process of, and if we put this off, are we getting too far into winter so they can't do the work? Yeah.
So my, sorry.
Commissioner Lautner?
I think that several of us are on the same idea. I would, if possible, when we could, accept the Eastland construction bid and ask them to supplement the product, or if you want to kick this off, if this motion were turned down tonight, we would have the opportunity, since we're getting together next week, to have a short special meeting preceding our budget meeting next week and deal with this, because I'm also concerned, as beautiful as it's been, at some point, it's gonna snow, I'm sure of it. So I wouldn't put it off too long, but that is a possibility as well.
No comment, make how you like to proceed.
You know what, they could answer that question. Totally. Yeah, but if you postpone it for a week, is that,
Willing to withdraw your motion?
I will, I'm sure,
Second?
sure.
So
You can
we'll
just ask Easley to-
We'll have a special meeting right before the budget meeting.
And we'll ask the representatives to be here to explain their position then, or?
Or you want me to find out from Easley if they change something, or what do you ask me to ask?
Ash instead of you.
Yeah, I think they just need to be here.
It's just a project.
Yeah.
But the question comes down to, and I'm just thinking out loud.
I got you.
Thinking out loud. We have a vendor that's done 100% ash. If we want this other vendor to do 100% ash, they may have to amend their bid to cover that. If they say, well, yeah, we can do that, but it's going to cost us X.
Well, then you'd have to evaluate that and say no.
Yeah, but is that fair to the other vendor?
Yeah. I guess what I don't know right now.
That's
is
what I don't know.
Right, and what I also don't know is how much of this is not iffy, and I guess there's not thermally treated ash, and are we willing to throw a local contractor away for this little bit of part that isn't thermally treated ash, and that's the part I really don't have a handle on, is it, you know, they've got 90% of the wood thermally treated ash, and 10 is iffy, which are both the same durability,
I will
so.
talk with Patrick tomorrow to try to get some more answers.
You will need a signature page today for me.
We'll get it. I can't do it right now.
Okay,
good.
We'll get it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Signatures for a special session.
We'll get it.
Okay, we're now down to action item 3B. And
this is in a handout that put into your packet. Okay, this is the project on the government center for sod repair. Again, we've been working through Apex Engineering and manufacturing. They put out bids for us. The bids came back. You can see that we had three options to look at. The one vendor that was 100%, that was completed 100% of the bid was Cusac's Masonry. As you can see from the cover, they are out of Hubbardston, Michigan. But the E1, the bid product -01 covers all the demolitions, but plus the concrete work that has been recommended so that once the repairs are done, we don't have water continuing to drip down the wall. And the wall will be replaced by masonry. Again, Steve and I went through a very long email conversation to make sure that we were covered. Again, it came down to, we can't go around. He did confirm that the other vendors did not have any intention of doing the demolition work or anything else. So there's no separate vendor that would do the base work that we need to do the rest of it. His recommendation in the end of the discussion that we had, you can read the emails, is to continue to move forward, and that he feels like that his recommendation is to move forward with Cusac's and masonry. One thing, not knowing the business very well, it's trying to get this done with brick, because laying brick in the middle of the winter is not a good idea. So, I guess one thing I want to be pretty selfish about it. I'm happy to see that someone's going to use brick. You can use any product you want, but this building was built with brick. And I know we look at the other stuff, we want that so you have a comparison. But what does that tell us, that, hey, you build a building and all of a sudden you take off one major wall while people can't see it? It still doesn't. It's like what we talked about today. We got to take care of what we got to do a little bit better job. So,
The suggested motion on the EDS, is this Fund 805, but it is Fund 470.
470, so.
Anybody wants to make a motion? Commissioner Lautner?
Yes. I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the bid presented by Cusack Masonry Restoration Incorporated as recommended by the consulting engineering in the amount not to exceed $38,600 for funds to be transferred from the general fund contingency to Fund 470 and authorize the chairman to sign the contract.
Support.
Any discussion? All those who support the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 6-0. Down to 3C, the relief planting. Mr. Russ?
Yes, I'm gonna recuse myself from this discussion.
For what reason?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. I'm going to be the project manager if this is approved, and there is a chance that they would offer me compensation, so I need to recuse myself.
Commissioner Uga?
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the offer from DTE for 20 trees to be planted at Veronica Valley Park as outlined. I'd like to add that I've participated in one of these, and it's great.
Support.
Any discussion? Commissioner Lautner?
All right, so this came before us because we had to accept a grant. I opposed this last week just based only on principle because we didn't follow our procedure, which this should have gone to the full Parks and Recreation Board before it came to us. And I think we could have had more questions. I now do question that, and this is new, and I apologize, but if now we're going to accept a grant and we are going to have a forester potentially paid, then we're not putting that out for bid. I guess now I don't know how, because we have a grant policy, we have bid policy, but now we're going to be giving one of us potential compensation for doing a
First
job,
of
but
all-
are there other foresters in the county that
We don't select them.
we're accepting
DTE,
the grant though?
no, we're accepting a gift of trees.
The gift of trees.
Okay,
With
it's
the
not a
gift
grant, we
comes-
don't get any money, we don't disperse any money. We just, and they picked this, it is their project, it's not ours. We just have to help do a public education on planting trees.
I understand exactly, and I know what this is about, but it just throws one more level of ickiness into it, unless it were just simply going to be for volunteer. You know, if this were just purely volunteer, which is what I assumed this was last week, that, you know, if Commissioner Ross wants to donate forestry knowledge,
Can I answer that, please?
yeah.
Yes, you may.
So each project needs a
Come to
project
the
manager.
table so they can hear you.
Identify yourself.
So each really planting project, which I've done dozens, needs a project forester. And we don't know the date, so we don't know who is available. Ellie Johnson has replaced me as the district forester. It may be we find a date and she can do it. But if she can't, and they can't find anybody else, then I will step in. And I was compensated when I provided that role when no one else could do it for Sutton's Bay. I was given a small stipend. And that's where it stands until we find a date, but it comes out of the grant. It comes out of DTE's grant. It doesn't, anything from the county.
Commissioner
You know, these projects are wonderful.
Thank you.
They bring the trees. All we have to do is have volunteers there to plant them. They provide everything, and we get to beautify our park. Let's see, I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners accept the did we already do this? We already did this, I want to do it again.
We can't talk
This
about
is
it.
such a great project.
So in deference to Commissioner Lautner, the struggle is because, yes, we didn't follow procedure and we keep not doing that in different ways. So I do understand the situation. It's just hard for me to come around to see what's wrong with trees. That probably wouldn't have been approved if it would have went through the proper channel. So I guess my support is reluctant, but I keep encouraging as my way out, please, let's follow our policies and then we don't get into this. I mean, it should have come from Parks and Recreation. And so, but
to your comment about trees, I'm fighting trees constantly. I just cut down about a dozen of them.
you can have all of the oaks in my front yard right now. I'd gladly give them away.
So it's fighting maples.
So we have a motion on the floor. Anybody want to say anything else? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 4-1. Thank you. We now have a number of 2% and statements of intention to submit.
You have an updated list that was handed out to you tonight of all the intentions of groups that would like to submit like to be able to submit a 2% grant. With your adoption of this resolution, we will inform all of them that they may move forward in preparing their actual grant application, which will be then in your November packet for consideration at the executive session. I think we haven't set a date, but we're going to try to make sure it's like the last week in October to get it to us so that we can get it addressed into the packet. So we have a number of quite a few applications. We have quite a broad spectrum of individuals and firms and groups that would like to apply for grant. And some of that is our own internal work. So I'm not don't hold your breath that we're going to get every one of them. This is stuff. There you go. I'd be happy if we get 2 or 3.
So you have an EDS and they're listed there.
Yeah, that's an updated EDS, and what's new is what came in since last Tuesday. Habitat for Humanity, Grand Traverse Region, Homestretch Housing, Energy Futures Task Force, Solid Waste Council and Seeds for a composting program, and the VFW for a handicap restaurant. So
we're not approving the submission, we're approving permission to write the application. Any discussion?
I'm sorry.
Do we have a motion?
Not yet.
I don't think we have a motion.
Okay,
yet, so
let's have a motion.
that looks like.
Yes, Commissioner Unger.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners recommend that the listed entities be issued intent to apply letters authorizing the listed entities to proceed with preparation of writing grant applications to be submitted for consideration to the Board of Commissioners in November 2024.
Support.
Discussion.
Now, this is the updated list. The last item is VFW handicap. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Lautner?
Well, you know, while I appreciate the fact that I think we should put a lot of grant requests through, as it was said last week, we're kind of competing with ourselves when we get a lot of outside of what the payment in lieu of taxes is supposed to actually cover and actually do. And so, you know, I'm not opposed to all of these, but I am concerned about our chances of not getting a lot of things that we could use the support for, considering that we don't get that tax base.
Any other comments?
Still our job to authorize them to present the intent. So that's what we have to do.
Any other comments? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 5-1. We now have you have another one.
I've got a lot.
Intergovernmental agreement, and you and Matt have worked hard on this.
Yeah. Last March or sometime last spring, the county and Leelanau Township entered into a intergovernmental agreement. I know you all had a copy, I think, of the red line version. But though when we got ready to start something, a little thing came up, we called the special land use permit. So they kind of threw everything into the tailspin. And we've been working since then to get that particular part done. Leelanau Township is still willing to enter into an agreement, but one of the things they had to wrestle with is when was the SLUP going to be approved and all that kind of stuff. And they had some ARPA monies they were committing to this project, which they were rightfully concerned that if they didn't get it done, if we didn't get the SLUP done in November, they would lose their ARPA funds. But they've resolved that issue because they're going to take funds out of their general fund and reallocate the ARPA funds to something else. Through that, when I was working with them, and I know some of you had copies of this, we mentioned to them how we would like for them to enter into this agreement so that we knew that they were going to be willing partners, but we really didn't need their money. The previous agreement says, oh, you got to send us your $100,000 within 7 days. Well, I don't have the SLUP yet. I can't build a project. So there's no point in trying to get their money. And we just got to hold it in a bank account. And we earn interest on it. They can earn interest on it too. We don't need it. If something happens, we don't proceed down the road. So agreement item number 1 was changed to more or less commit that in the event of construction of the tower does not commence, I mean, it started, not finished, it started within 2 years, then this agreement would automatically terminate unless the parties, we both come together and renew it. Now, if we haven't got it started in 2 years, I don't know what's going to happen from that point. So that's not a harsh thing to do. The other one is under item 3. We wanted to make it clear that we didn't need their funds until such time that we would have pulled the building permit for the tower. That's the last permit that has to be sought. Then the tower can be built. And we usually like to have their funds within 7 days after that, and they agree to that. The only other thing in this whole document that we should have changed, that had been changed previously, when you go down to compensation, you get down to the 4th line where it says 6 months. We had already agreed back last year to make that 12 months. So we'll make that change has already been made. We just didn't get it corrected in this one. So if you do that, we will, before the final signatures need to be done, we'll make that correction. But I know Leelanau Township was going to be considering this at their meeting tonight, and we are considering at our meeting tonight, and who knows, maybe in a week we'll have a signed agreement. That was a long story to a short answer.
Commissioner Rush.
I move that the County Board of Commissioners approve the intergovernmental agreement between Leelanau County and Leelanau Township for the construction of the communications tower located off Kitchen Road in Leelanau Township.
Support.
Discussion.
Congratulations.
Discussion. Commissioner Lautner.
So is this an amendment to the original agreement?
No, because we did,
Is it a?
according to our attorneys, we've never had an agreement. They've never signed it. They've never signed the original agreement.
So the original agreement, was there 3 parties in the original agreement?
2.
Just 2?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so our attorneys said technically you do not have an agreement at all. If the other party did not sign, you don't have an agreement.
So there's been funds allocated for the tower, though.
Leelanau Township?
No, by Cherryland Electric? But they're not going to be listed in the agreement?
That's not a part of, that's another whole separate agreement. That's all been.
Okay, so
that's
that
what
one's
you're
all,
getting.
yeah.
That's a separate
So is
agreement
this
over there.
just-
That's a whole separate agreement with them. This is our agreement with Leelanau Township.
Okay.
Okay, now I got your question.
Yeah.
Good.
So we're all set otherwise.
Oh, Leelanau, Cherry Land Electric is fine. We've already got their money, so if
Right,
things don't
that's
happen, we're
fair.
gonna be refunding some money, so there you
Yes, we are.
go.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0. Thank you. We now have the Michigan Leadership Institute. This is a late edition by Richard and Michelle Crocker.
Michelle, do you want to take this or do you want me to do this?
Sure, I can do it. This is just a follow-up to what you asked us to do in September to negotiate with MLI, Chet Janik, for an extension to his current contract that you had from your prior round of administrator search. And so this is just a continuation. I think that the ES explains it. And I didn't receive any questions, so it's a modest amount. It's a fair representation.
Mr. Rogar.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the addendum to the March 2024 service agreement with Michigan Leadership Institute for the additional fee of $4,250 as presented, funds to come from number 101, 100, 101, 967, 000, and that the chairman is authorized to sign the agreement.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0. We now,
I would ask that we go ahead and take H and we'll do G because if after that we'll be going into closed session.
I'll speak to H if you'd like me to.
Okay. This is another one of your handouts.
This came about, it started with a meeting of the Emergency Services Committee, Matt and Under Sheriff and the township officials who expressed concern along with the road commission that starting next spring, it would be difficult to get into Traverse City on M22 during the construction of the roundabout. And they wanted us to reach out to Grand Traverse County and see if the Grand Traverse County Road Commission had any plans. Well, I, in an informal conversation with Penny Moore, she had the same question. And Penny said, let's meet informally with the two road commissions and with Rob Henschel, the chair of the Grand Traverse Board, and with me and Brad Jewett and Penny Morse. And we met, and we talked to Betsy Copia, and we said the road commission doesn't have any money, but we've got a problem. It's a safety problem. It's a hazard waiting to happen. And Betsy said, well, I would suggest that you reach out to the Senator DeBruce and me and see if we might get a special allocation this fall so we could do something in very early spring. And we put together 3 ideas with the road commission. 1 was a temporary stoplight, 2 was a regular stoplight, and 3 was a regular stoplight with a left turn. And this resolution is just a resolution to request for the state to provide some money for the Grand Traverse Road Commission to fix that road. Commissioner Eckler?
I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the joint resolution of Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners, and Leelanau County Board of Commissioners requesting state support for funds for safety improvements at the intersection of Gray Road and Cedar Run.
Support. Any discussion? Yes.
Even without the construction next year is still a problem today. Every time a house is built in Bingham, Sutton's Bay, or Leelanau Township, another car comes down the road. If there's a backup on M22, which there is, for construction zones, this should have been a long time ago, and I talked to Penny at the airport meeting also, and it's great if we can go ahead and even, make the right calls on this and get the stoplight at least on Gray Road, because it will be backed up to Hoxie or Lincoln. It's bad right now. Go out and watch the traffic in the morning, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ludwig?
So, back some time ago, We used to receive our payment in lieu taxes or our 2% grant money from the tribe in one check form, which we could then choose to spend at our discretion. And we took that money, I'm trying to remember the year, late 90s, and put the extension through Bugai Road, which never used to go through, we stop at Lincoln. So it went down the hill, of course, to Fouch. So now that road goes all the way through, but at that time, we had gone to Grand Traverse County and said, we've done our part, but you need to do now the rest to get that traffic out of Leelanau County. And I hope this works. It's my point. We haven't got there yet. Any of these solutions are going to be helpful because Commissioner O'Rourke is exactly right. It's a problem now, but it's also half the problem because we still have the same problem now. Most of those same cars at Straight and Long Lake. So it's a start. I will say that, but hopefully we can get something.
Thank
done
you.
because
Would
it
you
is
call the
right.
roll?
It's going to be a mess.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke, 6-0.
I'm going to speak to the,
I would, as soon as I can find my motion that I want you all to.
I got it here.
You do.
Just move the whole section, right?
Yeah.
Move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners move into closed session to discuss collective bargaining as permitted by MCL 15.268 sub 1 sub C.
Support.
before we vote on this, we will, it'll probably be a half hour or so in closed session. We will come back and we'll reconvene. And there's coffee, I think, here if you want a cup of coffee while you wait for us. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call, yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
6-0. Well, yeah, I did too. So they had it in certain places.
Nice to see.
Right?
She tried to loan me one, but it was for.
Good, how are you?
Cold?
I am.
Yeah, it is a little, once we came out here.
It'll heat up in a moment.
The moment, seize the moment.
Oh,
We're doing good so far.
well, you're not breaking any records, but.
Why does it say I gotta enter my password again?
Because she's letting the computer sit there too long when it's in activity.
Well, I just click cancel and it comes up, but why does it say that?
I don't know.
I mean, if I just can't, I'll get a little,
Because you didn't do anything for X amount of time.
that's not your problem. No, that's a poor attitude.
I think she just went to the restroom.
Where we at? We're at,
I think she just went to the restroom.
okay. Yeah, that's see the run thing, that's, man, I've been pushing that for years.
Relax, Richard, you can sit down.
Turn the button.
I've got to stand up. I've been sitting too long today. If you don't mind, it's just public comment. I can hear you.
What?
Welcome back, everybody. Mr. Retro,
I would move that we move back into open session.
Support.
all those in support of that motion say aye.
Roll call, right?
Motion approved 6-0. We are back into open session and we will now go down to review of financials.
And I did give you hard copies this afternoon or this morning, I think, with late. It's predominantly indigent defense fund. That's to get these attorneys paid so that these can be reimbursed in the round that's closing September 30th. And so that grant with the state of Michigan, we try to put as many bills in there as we can to get reimbursed. So it's a predominantly that. There's some other small bills in there. The job posting for the administrator was in there. One heat pump, which we're still working on the fund transfer to 470 for the 10 that you approved from DTR. So we're still whittling away at the money that we moved last year. So we're not going to need to move any money there. The quarterly dupe fund color copies in our contract, if we exceed the contractual relationship with NetLink on color copies, we're billed for the excess. That's about it.
We haven't made the final plan payment, I mean, to point, have we?
We have, no, we still have ARPA money remaining. It's committed, which protects us, so we don't have to send it back. I would really love it if they could light up a few more cabinets and get those bills in here and get those bills paid. That'd be great. But I haven't seen one and I haven't seen an email, so.
They're stuck on a couple of Eagle permits that along the lake shore. Slowed it down a bit, but they're making progress. I mean,
Sure. And the weather's been great.
yeah. Any questions for Kathy?
No.
Okay, any special reports? This time we have public comment. It's the second one. It's 5 minutes and yes, come forward, please.
My name is good. My name is Harry Steffens. I'm a precinct delegate for Leland Township. I wanted to go first because I want to go home. But anyway, I just had a couple of comments I want to make about the dam. I kind of out of the loop, so I really don't know how you got to where you're taking bids on a wooden walk. But my question is, why wouldn't you look into a steel walkway? Steel walkway would be maybe a little more expensive to put in. I don't know. Seems like $100,000, a lot of money to pay for a few planks, but anyway, I just wondered why you wouldn't look into putting in a steel walkway. The other comment I had, and I know a little bit about electricity because I have a degree in electronic technology. I was a chief electrical engineer for Shell Oil Company. And my specialty was power generation. When I went to Papua New Guinea, one of the first things I did when I got over there is I repaired and maintained a mini hydroelectric plant. Okay, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. But looking at our situation here, my ancestors, my forefathers, they owned that land over in East Leland that got flooded when they built the dam. And that dam was built for hydroelectric power. That's what it was built for. And then somewhere along the line, I don't know what year, but somewhere along the line, they decided to get rid of that hydroelectric dam, or hydroelectric plant, I should say. And I remember asking my dad, why in the world would they do that? I mean, that is cheap power. I mean, you got that water falling off there. There's how many, every time I look at that dam, the water coming over, I think, boy, how many millions of kilowatts are just going and wasted here, you know? So it occurred to me when they, I'm sorry, I was saying what my dad said that the reason they got rid of it is because the power was so cheap. It was cheaper to buy it than to maintain that little generator. So my question is, has anybody ever thought about maybe asking what it would cost to put another generator back in there? It'd be more than enough. One generator there would be more than enough to power every government building in the county, you know, and then you could have, I mean, it's pretty cheap power once you get it installed, you know. So anyway, that's my comments. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Any other public comment? Yes.
Not me.
Nice much. You guys took the speakers down, huh? Could be a little louder in back, just a little bit. Jim Coverstead, Leelanau Township. I guess what I'll do is so you know what I'm talking about. Hope these are in order. They should be. I'd like this one page from back to be put on the website.
All 3 pages.
Okay. Oh, just the first 2 pages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we talked, you remember that from the machine accuracy test? Yes, I'm sure. Okay. Okay. I guess I can't help but be a little disappointed. There really wasn't much follow-up in February when I tried to bring to your attention some of the seriousness that's going on with the election process and flawed software. I'm sure not just in election machines, but many other things. And you're all aware, and I don't have to repeat how many times places in our area, including ourselves, have been affected by hacking and malware, computer technology. What I'd like to concentrate on, because I've gone over this stuff before. I don't want to beat a dead horse. You should know about it. You were presented with it, those of you that stayed, those of you who watched. But as Michelle knows, there were 3 of us that attended the voting machine accuracy test. During that test, I'm just going to highlight, it's on the 2nd page, the 2nd paragraph, which reads, to make matters worse and even more precarious at this year's Leelanau County voting accuracy test, the election personnel running the demonstration expressed their own lack of ability and confidence to be able to perform a manual hand counting of paper ballots because of the high or higher human error rate that would occur versus using computers. Kind of shines poorly on humanity when we can't even do relatively simple arithmetic and sorting properly. They explained that the troubles that they had in getting the pre-printed, try to follow this, pre-printed Dominion demo test ballots. They had to remove the ones that they found had a problem and fill out correct ballots. That what was told the people that were attending. This would allow the tabulators to produce the same final count as the final tally spreadsheet that Dominion included with the test to begin with. So it was already predetermined. Just like having answers to a test before you take a test. Okay. But another sobering takeaway from it is when I mentioned it, or Michelle and I were talking, and we're talking about responsibilities and liabilities and stuff. I'll just read it. A sobering takeaway from the test was when the Leelanau County Treasurer referred to the election county officials as having immunity from being responsible from any election-related areas that may occur from the voting system the clerk chose. Yet they're choosing it. They're supposedly vetting it. They're making sure that there's no problems with it. Okay. This would also include any lack of due diligence on the part of the officials to completely vet and verify a full, complete, transparent chain of custody as the analog casting of a vote. Let me explain analog, just simplify it. You got a piece of paper, you got a circle, you take a pencil, you fill it in like a clock with hands versus digital where you keystroke it in. So it's going from an analog form into a digital form. Hope you understand that. And then the vote is interpreted and converted into a digital format. Okay, sounds easy enough. And then sorted. Okay, accurately to determine the final results. You hate to have to put a portrait up of your kid on your nice copy machine, run a picture of him and find out that his nose is over by his ear. It can be done. It's called Photoshop. You can do a lot with technology. Would you ever know unless it was your kid and his nose is over here and his ears in the front of his face? Okay, as I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's annoying to me that when I brought that up, all I got was crickets from all of you. All of you. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to listen to what was shown up there to see that there were some pretty high profile people like Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, former First Lady, along with our current Vice President, who was mentioning how she brought people in, now running for president, candidate, how she brought people into the Senate that hacked the machine and rigged it right in front of her. That was on part of the video too, if you were watching it. There's a lot of detail out there. Okay, that's 5 minutes already?
5 minutes.
Okay, I will be staying around afterwards. Hopefully I can witness your signature on that affidavit that you have. It would help put my mind at ease because you boast that you have full faith and confidence in it. Please put your signature on that then. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would appreciate if.
Commissioner comments to come later.
Was
Yeah,
a
please.
little bit lower, not so loud, please.
Any other public comment? Mr. Kelsey. Commissioner Allgaier didn't.
I can't adjust both of you.
Commissioner Allgaier didn't tell you to talk lower. She did.
It's just basic.
Good evening. We talked about the dam issue here in Leland. It could be used for power, but with the billions of regulations at the federal and state level, an entrepreneur, anybody would want to do something that simple would be immediately eradicated from his mind by a special thinking device that he doesn't have. I'm here to speak to the fact that the agenda tonight again had a very important missing item,
on it. But if Charles Rion would have been alive, I would not be saying these things. So the commission here seems to be avoiding the very important thing. A prior commission on May 11, 2021 chose to try to destroy the clerk with no plan. And by definition, that is doing something, engaging in an action or duty, but failing to perform the duty correctly. That is, once the mess was made, the failure to fix it has not been done well. It's obvious it's not been done well because $1 million has been spent already almost on this thing. So therefore, I'm asking again and requesting that the resolution to apologize to the clerk and the financial staff for the clerk loathing motion decision of May 11, 2021. That resolution to include and should include also or a separate resolution to apologize to county taxpayers for the waste of nearly $1 million. Again, I'm making a request because I believe this commission has to redeem itself from the defects and the problems the prior commission made it. We had the opportunity to fix it the first meeting we had in January, but we focused on removing people from public comment was our key issue on our first meeting this commission held. But again, I'll request that this commission do that and apologize to the taxpayers and to the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guzzi. Thank you. Any other, yes?
I hate saying. Again, Keith Badun, Leelanau. Interesting comment or conversation I had with Joe. We realized that you're never going to get rid of fossil fuels. Okay. Number one, anybody that vilifies people for fossil fuels should take the tires off their car because that has about a quart of oil in each one. The aluminum that you need to make a car has to be extruded, mined, extruded. That takes diesel powered equipment to do that. I used to work with robotics. Okay. A robotic farm might have like 60 robots to weld car frames, aluminum or steel. It takes roughly 10 solar panels to power maybe a smaller welder. So if you got 65 440 powered welders, you're going to need probably this enough, half this county solar panels just to weld a frame together in certain parts. So I'm getting kind of tired of people vilifying those of us that aren't all in on electric cars and solar panels. So we're going to have to live together, but you're not going to get away from fossil fuels. You are not, it's not going to happen. Bill Gates is not going to go across the ocean in a sailboat. He's going to fly his plane. John Kerry is going to do the same thing. He's not going to do a sailboat. He's going to fly his plane. So let's just be honest about it, is you're not getting rid of fossil fuels. So stop vilifying those of us that aren't totally on board. Like I said before, Palisades can easily power this whole county. Your solar farm is only going to do this building. Again, if this solar farm can power the entire county, I might think twice about it. But it's not. There's no way it can do that. So that's what I got to say is that you're never going to get rid of fossil fuels. So you might just as well accept it.
Thank you, Mr. Burden.
Amen.
Any other public comment? Mr. Buddick and then Mr. Giesman.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I believe tonight, again, you violated your conflict of interest. You actually had someone say they recuse themselves, yet let them come up to here and talk and engage in the discussion, which is completely illegal if you're going to recuse yourself. So the chair should have really stopped that. She should not have been allowed to speak when she has been recused. So I do think you really need to relook at your at the Robert's Rules of Orders, because you just violated them tonight and you violated your conflict of interest policy.
Thank you. Mr. Whizier.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. There'll be no peace in America until we have one person, one ballot, one vote, one day. Otherwise, we'll definitely have fraud. It's in human nature to do that. And out of 300 and some million people, it's going to happen. We should be guaranteed elections that don't have fraud. This handout is kind of a extended one from the one I gave you before. Reasons listed for concern, election fraud. The first one is gods5stones.com. I've got like 17 entries here, I think. First one is gods5stones. The cryptographic algorithm found in Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. They figure it's in all the states. They mentioned Michigan. Look that over, the link. So I'll be online on the county website here within a couple of days. I think I'll turn it in tomorrow. Rasmussen poll, 62% believe fraud or cheating determined 2020, and they believe 62% that it will determine 2024. The third one is looking at election source, and that's what Michelle has mentioned, that we don't work with Dominion, we work with election source. Well, there was an interview, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, where they say with the election source workers, they admitted that there's a back door to the computers. I'd like to hear from the clerk, Michelle, or whoever, is that there? Contact election source, get their side of the story. We deserve to hear that. The other side says, in fact, it seems like they admitted there's a back door into these computers, these machines. The fourth one is on Tina Peters. She is a hero. This lawfare that's going on across the country is doing one only thing, is to continue what's going on with the elections, that we can't be guaranteed they're authentic. The three reports there show fraud in the machines, and they're Dominion machines in Colorado, and we can expect the same thing here. The fourth, that was the fourth. The fifth one is Jeff O'Donnell, the Casco Records. And that Michelle, I think, mentioned to me up in Northport when I was there that she was going to check with election source. How do these cast vote records show this Mesa pattern? And the results of it are in that bar graph on the top. You'll see the middle one is what the whole election should be like. But the first one shows fraud at the beginning. And the last one shows the result of it, 5 points lost, in this case for Trump. We can't have that. The sixth one goes into the whole Let My People Go movie. Click on that. Omega for America Substack. It's got great articles on the fraud. Stop Bogus Ballots #8 shows Michigan the highest of 6 states, 1,759,000 issues there, with Michigan the worst. And also with our Leelanau County had the worst, over 119% registered to vote. Number 9, election fraud at a glance. There's 38 pages showing election fraud on this link in Michigan. And that's just found in Michigan, 38 pages. And then Douglas Franks, his analysis of Antrim County, there's 29 pages there. Hand Count Roadshow, Mark Cook, his link, engineered theft of the superpowers. Then United Sovereign America is a great one. It shows 29 million in 20 states, only 29 million apparently ineligible voter registrations, 10 million votes cast by those who weren't authentic registers, 2 million more votes counted than voters voted, 13% average error rate. We can't have this. And Jocelyn mentioned, we'll come to get you. That's a threat to all the clerks and all the canvassers in Michigan. And then the vice president candidate, Tim Walz, he says, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. It's obvious Trump is wrong. There's no election fraud. Well, look at this handout. Look at the 20 or 62% of people that thought there was fraud, and 62% that, and then look at the assassination attempts, how all those people were interrelated, and look at the end at the voting with paper. That's our salvation. We all need to be for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other public comment? Thank you very much for coming tonight. Any commissioner comments?
I just think, going back to my township days, when someone recruits themselves, it's up to the board, not that person. If I remember that. I mean, the board has to make the decision, and they would ask the person, you know, and then we as a board would decide, if I remember. That's why we did it in the township. So maybe we look into that.
Thank you. Any other, yes?
So I might age myself here, but to further explain my vote on the trees, I have 16 grandchildren and they watch the Lorax and he speaks for the trees. So that explains my vote. It's just trying to throw a little humor in the end here for you.
Any other commissioner comments?
My question is, do you watch the Lorax?
I do, but them I do, yes.
Well, I have a comment. I appreciate the public comments we have, and I don't always agree with them. And sometimes I think they're opinions. Sometimes they're facts. Sometimes they're information. Sometimes they're misinformation, and sometimes they're disinformation. And it's my job as a commissioner to sort all that out. And it's a tough job sometimes. So thank you.
Well, I have grandchildren as well, and I'm still looking for the red dog on the blue tree and the blue dog on the red tree, and the yellow dog.
I think we have similar reading lists.
Well, now we,
The big dog part.
now Commissioner Lautner, it's your turn to lead us in the next agenda item.
I see we got some interest on the American Rescue dollars.
Correct, and we do keep that with those dollars to spend toward the Point Broadband contract.
Excellent, excellent, okay. And then, under expenses, and then 11, salaries, so was this like overtime in the sheriff's department, salaries went over?
No, I have not addressed that with you yet. We're gonna look at that on the next budget amendment. So the overtime issue that I discussed this morning will be on your next budget amendment. Because
Okay.
we still have room to operate, but as we get closer to the end of the year, I want to make sure we're watching it.
Okay, and then under the treasurer, so John's salary is like set, but this is higher.
Well, if I walk you through a little bit on page 1, the expenses of the Board of Commissioners, that when the budget was approved for 2024, the finance director's wages were under the Board of Commissioners. By motion in June, Richard had a department constructed and all the associated expenses are now going to the accounting department, which now is named finance department. Correct. So we have to reduce it.
Commissioners Department.
It went down in Board of Commissioners, but it went up in finance accounting. Then you did agree to the special project of the Raymond chart of accounts. So I wanted to make sure we got that budgeted. The sheriff, this was the overlap that you approved in the beginning of the year for the secretaries to have 2 people in 1 chair for 4 months.
So 17,000.
And then I mentioned Commissioner Rexroth brought it to my attention to check rental vehicle line items for the charges from 10 and 30 to 25 and 50. So this is going to increase every line item for vehicle rental throughout the entire general fund.
Okay.
Then you just approved overlap in the jail for 8 weeks for a new hire. So I'm amending for that.
Okay.
Also reallocating the one, let's see, where is that? Family court, the 1 quarter of the last quarter of the year, the 50% of John Boonstra's position from the general fund to Fund 292. So we had to move that. And then you just approved an increase for the 2 chief deputies in the treasurer's office and register of deeds.
That's what that one and that the next question was.
So this is for the balance of 24. And I'll be giving you new staff pages for your budget
Oh.
because you've got a new salary level that is not reflected in your proposed budget for 25. But this is for the remainder of 24. Drain commissioner, remember we front the GEI engineering for any of the drains. So they're in your claims, there's a bill for GEI for 7,400. I just keep up with it because his budget is so tight. I don't want it to go over. And then here's where the finance department picks up the salary and the monies for the finance director. In Parks and Rec, we had a new hire. We had the some uniforms and things that hadn't been budgeted for. Repair and maintenance was a little higher, so I bumped that up for you. And I anticipated you would be doing a dam approval, DAM. So if you want to approve this budget amendment and with the exception of the adjustment for the dam, we can amend this and not do that transfer to the dam fund until you make your damn decision.
I would leave it in there, because if you don't spend it, then it just goes back, but we're not gonna probably do it as much.
Something.
I can spend most of it anyway, right? I mean, just within 10,000, I don't have no trouble with it staying there and just.
And I understand what Richard is saying. However, if you move money into a fund, if it's unspent, it'll stay there.
Unless we move it back.
Well, we're not accustomed to that, but
Okay.
She's a finance lady. We'll take your, I'm going to take your recommendation.
so you can
We'll find a
approve.
way to spend it, even if it's in the other fund.
Okay.
Or out.
So if you can approve budget amendment number 24-011, the way it's presented, or amend it, it's up to you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Kathy?
Okay. Good.
Commissioner Lawler?
Well, I would recommend approval of amendment number 24-011.
Support.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
I would recommend approval of amendment number 24-011 with the exception of the transfer out for dam fund.
Support.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
Move to approve amendment number 24-012.
Support. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
Move to recommend approval of fund transfer 24-005.
Support. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Recommend approval of claims and accounts, $267,716.98.
Support. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
Move to approve post audit. $5,899,753.11. Support.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Richmond?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Someone else.
Been real, been fun, but ain't been real fun.
Real fun. That takes me out.